Apparently I left the NPC rotating code here when I left off last time and I just forgot about it. Hello all the crazy people out there, my name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games, and let's make some games about wizards and possibly dragons. I haven't decided on that one yet. So, last time we worked on NPCs, and specifically the drawing of NPCs so that we can have NPCs who are, like... I don't want to call this billboarded or diorama because those two like descriptions refer to specific things, but like they're like the cardboard cutout NPCs that I talk about sometimes. Today we're going to work on doing some more interesting things with these. Firstly, though, because this rotation is kind of annoying me, where am I setting this rotation? Apparently I'm just doing that in the end step over there. Let's get rid of that because that's kind of dumb, and I'd like to not have the world spinning around me, or at least the character spinning in the world when I'm doing this. All right. Much better. So what are we doing today? I'm not sure if I'm gonna have a lot of time to do this let's make a game thing today because I have some obligations that need to be dealt with like off the computer. So we'll see how much I can get done in a short amount of time. I'd like to attempt to do the mind read spell. I feel like I should be able to get in another spell with some rudimentary behavior in a fairly short amount of time. That said, I'm gonna have to actually figure out how the other spells work because it's been a while. OBJ spell unlocked. So if I just clone this, I can go and start implementing some new behaviors. And let's start with a symbol, shall we? So we've got bounce, flower, push, time, and unlock. What would be a decent icon for a mind read? I'm thinking like a speech bubble. My first thought was a brain, but that might be just a little bit too weird. Let's go with a speech bubble. Let's see. Color-wise, and this probably isn't going to be like, you know, final artwork or anything like this, because this is still very MS Painty. But let's see, we've got brown, pink, white, blue, and yellow. What color do we not have here? What the obvious answer to that is like an orangey red, but so I want to make all the spells a somewhat different color from each other, right? Because I don't want to have any like be too visually similar, just to minimize the chance of confusion. I think I am going to go with like a pinkish color. I've been playing a lot of Golden Sun recently, as I'm sure some of you are aware, and I want to say in that game mind read related powers are usually pinkish. So can I have a like a purple outline and a light pink speech bubble or something like that, or a thought bubble or something? I'm going to try and do this without making it sound to look too much like a brain. And then, again, the spell symbol flower is also pinkish, but this can really be any color, right? Did I assign that to the wrong thing? I assigned that to the wrong object. Let's go assign the key to the unlock and the mind read speech bubble thing to the mind read. And just to make this a little bit different, we can recolor this. We can make this like red and orange or so, because flowers really can be any color you want. That's very loud. Can I make that be like less loud? That's not like a lot better. Again, probably not final art. I just want something that's not like insane to look at. All right, so mind read. What is going to happen when we hit something with this? So spell types.unlock, spell types.mind, .mind read. We're going to want to set that variable definition. When something gets hit by the mind read spell, there's some kind of mechanism for like enabling the player to have spells, right? All right, yeah. So this is kind of the mechanism for saving and serializing and deserializing, if you will, saving and loading. I don't think this is going to be immediately relevant to us right now, but I will just put some data here anyway. Some data relating to it anyway, and then I'm going to need to unlock it at the bottom there. All right, so we've got mind read spells, and it's not going to do anything particularly interesting right now. I don't believe I can wave my wand and have anything happen. That's similar to reading minds, but the same way that we can like wave our wand at other things and have it work. But I think NPCs we will have that apply to, and let's just shrink that asset browser a little bit. Mind read objects. So this should the way that we're gonna make this work is something like a treasure chest. Do we have a all right, so we've got a spell response variable definition down here, and that's going to be the object type that we can respond to. And I believe treasure chests are also going to have an on spell hit methods for that's going to define their response when they get hit by a spell. I'm still not 100% sure, honestly, if this is like the most sane way to do this, but I don't think I'm going to have any types of objects that respond to more than one kind of spell. Maybe NPC, combat, mind read, whatever, but honestly, I doubt it. But I can go set the spell response of the NPC class of objects to the mind read spell, and I can take the on spell hit and have them do something when that happens. So, OBJ NPC here, their spell response is going to be OBJ spell mind read, and in the create event, we've got some handy functions, handy methods for things like NPC related behaviors, and also they're going to have a mind read. So I don't believe at the moment these guys have any states of their own. They will later. Let's just print something out on the screen. I'm going to have... let me finish that thought after I see that this is working. Okay, so why are you not... Oh, is this going to come down to, again, NPCs sort of, kind of not living in the same collision system as everything else? It probably is, isn't it? That's a little bit of an inconvenience. Is it time to fix that? It's probably time to fix that, isn't it? Alright, so I had to look around for this a little bit. So, regular 3D objects, which the player can walk into and stop when they hit it and whatnot. They've got a couple of methods for things like set mesh and update collision position and that kind of thing. And NPCs currently don't, which is gonna be in my best interest to change eventually, and I'm not gonna wanna leave it like that forever. But there's gonna be a couple of qualifications on this, such as that NPCs aren't ever gonna have like a 3D mesh vertex buffer. They're just gonna stay as the like cardboard cutout guys, as I've been calling them. There still, as far as I know, isn't really a name for this kind of NPC, is there? I'm pretty sure I can take credit for making everyone call the diorama style diorama, because as far as I know, I'm the first person who called it that. But like, can we also start calling these guys cardboard cutouts? Because I think that would be very funny. Anyway, this is largely irrelevant. So, NPCs do currently have our little C-shape, C-object for the sphere and the collision object. They're currently not added to the collision world, which sort of limits the interactions that the player can have with them, and also the interactions that everything else can have with them, and also the interactions that they can have with everything else. So, I think, what was it? It's just objgame.collision is the, like, reference to the collision world, I think. Let's just, borrow that, and up here, we can just add that to the collision world, and in update collision positions, let's see. That is also not something we really need, but CObject.shape for the reference to the sphere itself. Position. So we can get a reference to the C object sphere's position or whatever, and we can say position dot x equals x. We can say y and z also equals y and z. And since NPCs aren't going to have a whole array of possible collision objects for large multi-part objects, we don't really need to do the rest of that, do we? I'm just going to need to say, actually update the object in the world, which is going to be just removing and re-adding it to the collision world. Something like this. And something like this. And now if I do this, we should have collision on NPCs. I don't think that's going to mess up the player in any way. It messed up the player in some way. Why is that? The fact that I errored there makes it sound like this hasn't been initialized yet or something. OBJ game create line 82, so that's where we're instantiating the player. Are we instantiating the player before we're like instantiating the game world? I have a feeling that might be what it is. Oh yeah, right before. So let's do this after we set up everything else, shall we? And I don't think I need to say npc.update collision position, because your collision object should be added to the world just like immediately. I can still collide with everything, right? And I can also collide with the NPC. Okay, can I cast a spell on the NPC? I can. All right. So that is going to solve two problems at once here. I feel like I'm gonna want a separate collision mask for NPCs. I'm not sure if that's going to be something that I'm going to want to do now, though. Just in case, like, I want the player to be able to walk through NPCs, but I want the NPCs to be able to collide with all the usual things in the game world, that kind of thing. But I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to want that to look yet, so we're just going to... we're just going to say NPCs can have collision with the world. And... if I go back to you, when we get hit by our little mind read spell, we're gonna wanna do something, and I think let's write ourselves another little function. Get mind read text, and I'm gonna make this a method instead of a regular variable definition. Just in case at different times in the game, like at the beginning of the game versus the end of the game, you want an NPC to be able to think something different. And then inside this get mind read text method, you could like have it like check the current quest state or whatever and have it return text based on that. And then you could, of course, like, override this in instance creation code in the room editor. Well, we're not using the room editor, so I guess instance creation code, like, in whatever the equivalent to the Unity scene importer that I'll be writing is going to look like. Anyway, so we're going to have to get the mind read text, and then we're going to need a system for actually putting that on the screen. So if I go back to OBJ game up here, we currently don't have any UI being drawn, apparently. There isn't a separate UI object, is there? I don't think there is. Critical stuff. No, that's all handled by obj_game. All right. So let's go create ourselves a little list of thought bubbles for NPCs that you might want to put in the world. And where would be a good place to do that? Let's just create an array that's called thought bubbles.
Hey.
I think A thought bubble is going to be a little bit of data composed of some, just a couple of values. And where should I put this? Character stuff? All right, so let's invoke that. I'll organize the asset browser later. Rule group. Group thought bubbles. Let's just make a little constructor. We're going to have the text that we're going to show. We're going to have a timestamp. Do I want to say like time to live or like the timestamp when it was created? I think I'll say time to live because that makes things a little bit simpler. We're also going to want the X, Y, Z, and should I save a reference to the NPC who generated it instead of the X, Y, Z? I think I'll do that because, like, what if an NPC is walking around and you want the thought bubble to follow them around? We'll just say NPC parent. This is going to be a constructor. We can just assign all of these values to instance variables. And I think I'm also going to need a, let's give these an update. And I think the only thing I need, at least for now, oh, you know what? I can think of another thing they'll need to do, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'll say time to live minus equals the delta time variable, and I'm also going to write still alive, and that's going to be time to live is greater than 0. And when we go into the game, the game's like draw a GUI event specifically. I realized that wasn't very specific. We can, let's just for now array for each over the thought bubbles array and a function. And in here at the beginning of draw a GUI, we can say like bubble.update. Oh, you know what? I probably don't want to use array for each for this because I will want to I want to iterate over it backwards. And that way, if not bubble.alive, did I call it alive? Still alive. If the bubble is not still alive, we can just array delete. From the thought bubbles array, index I1. The reason you want to iterate over an array backwards if you delete from it is because if you are going forwards and you remove an element, suddenly you'll have a fun little like concurrency issue where where the next element gets skipped over because it got moved down one, and then you'll like things will get weird. Obviously, you can program your way around that if you want to, but I think it's just easier and less work. And also easier for other people to read your code if you just iterate over it backwards. And then, let's just, for now, draw a circle. Actually, I'll need to do this one where we're still iterating over the thing. We'll draw a circle somewhere, and that somewhere is going to be world to screen. Do I not have a world to screen? That's like one of those functions that I almost always have and almost... I guess I don't have a world to screen. Alright. Let's just grab this from Wizarducks over here. That's kind of amazing that I made it this far without needing one of these. Script world to screen. Please, game maker. Let's just paste that in there. And I think I can actually simplify this a little bit. So there was some nonsense in the Wizarducks version where I was like recycling the output vector and stuff like that, but I think I can just return new. And since we don't apparently have a vector 2, we'll just make that a 3. And it's going to be composed of this on the X, this on the Y, and like 0 on the Z. And I don't think I'll have to flip anything upside down, because sometimes depending on how you set up the camera, you might have to flip the y-axis or the x-axis upside down or something like that. Anyway, the world to screen can be bubble.parent.x, bubble.parent.y, bubble.parent.z. We're also going to need the view matrix and the projection matrix. Where are those stored? It's like obj game.camera. Alright, obj game.camera.getViewMat. I think the scope of self is actually like obj.game here, so I could just say self.camera, but anyhow, we can say draw a circle at location.x, location.y. The radius can be, let's make it a little on the big side, like 40 or so, and outline only false. I should probably draw a set color C red or something too, just to make sure that I can see it. Alright, so, oh, you know what I'm not doing is I'm not actually, when you hit an NPC with the mind read spell, we're not actually pushing anything onto the, here. We're just, like, taking the value and putting it into the void. Array, push, obj game.thoughtbubbles, new thought bubble. We can say the text is going to be the get mind read text. The time to live can be, let's say, 10 seconds. And the parent can be us. I need another close parentheses there. All right, so now it's not going to like draw the text or anything, but it should draw a circle and like keep it there. And it's not. Okay. That's exciting. Why is that not drawing anything? Do I want to make sure that this is actually like happening? Did I happen to? Oh, still alive. Time to live is greater than 0. That should still be happening. My guess would be that we're just drawing it in the wrong location for some reason or another. Alright, so we are doing that, but where is location actually ending up? And this should be something between like 0, 0 and like 1280, 720 or whatever. X is going to be 6,000 and something. All right. That doesn't sound correct. Oh, you know what? For starters, no, that shouldn't matter. The fact that we're using Y up here, should it? Why is it like 68,000 on the X and like 384 on the Y? Oh, you know what? I know why this is. Why are there... I feel like this has bit me a few times in the last little while. But why are there two cameras? Why are there like two references to the camera in here? I legitimately have no idea why I did this. This is probably left over from when I was testing something really early on. Okay. I really don't like all this active camera nonsense. Alright, you know what? I'm gonna clean that up in a minute. First, before I clean that up, thought bubbles. And now we can actually be in the business of like making this not stupid. Everywhere. So I'm gonna just get rid of the active camera and I'm going to like just search and replace that. I don't think this is gonna break anything. So, what's this over here? I mean, not that, this over here. Why is the player getting their own camera for one? That really kind of doesn't make any sense to me. It's not getting used, I don't think. Okay, and the player's update camera method, it's doing this. But, like, this could just be a reference to the regular game camera, couldn't it? There's no reason for this. I'm not gonna say that I remember why I did it this way almost 2 years ago, but this does have the look of something that I probably wrote with the intent of like having a debug camera or something like that, and then I just like stopped having a debug camera. But all right, I think that is, if not all, but most of the references to such silliness. Because I know that I've had problems with that in the past, and I know I'm going to keep having problems with that if I don't, like, clean it up. So, is anything actually going to explode if I run this? Nope, camera still behaves the same as it always did. At some point, I should probably have some kind of intelligent camera ray checking so that like the camera will like stop behind the player if the player is standing right next to a wall, but definitely not a for now problem. Anyway, all right, so now, all right, so I think I do need to invert the Y on the return value of the world to screen, but we've cleaned up some of the nonsense with the game camera. We can stop having that confusing us, and I think I can. Let's see. On the vertical, it's going to be 0.5 minus 0.5 times this value multiplied by the screen height. Okay, so I think we're gonna have that red circle actually following the target around now, and all right. So that's anchored at the NPC's feet. If I want it to be anchored at, like, the NPC's, anchored at the NPC's head, we can say something like, in the thought bubble, what if I were to object orientate this a little bit more, too, and I were to say something like static get anchor point, and then we can return a new vector 3 of something like parent.x, parent.y plus like 32, parent.z. And then when this is actually being drawn on the screen, What did I call it? Get anchor location? Get anchor point. Man, wouldn't it be nice if I could remember what I named a variable more than like 2 seconds in the past? The bubble anchor is going to be that. We are going to have the origin of the speech bubble being drawn above the NPC's head. And all right, so not quite above your head. Maybe I would make that like plus 40 or plus 48 or so. But it's close enough. I think I'm going to be drawing probably some kind of 9-slice sprite, and maybe I'll have like a thought bubble trail going down from the top of your head, and it's going to be anchored at like bottom center, sprite origin, whatever, and it's going to be a little bit above the player's head like that. Okay. It is now past 4:30 in the afternoon on the day that I'm doing this, and I don't know how much time that I've got before I have to run away from the computer, but should I come back to this tomorrow? Unfortunately, should I finish doing this video tomorrow? I might have to do that. All right. In 2 seconds, it's going to be tomorrow. Right, so it's not actually tomorrow yet. I just finished with the aforementioned obligations a little bit faster than I expected. Anyway, where were we? So we're at the state where we can draw like circles above the head of the NPC that we cast Mind Read on, such that we can imagine that there's going to be a speech bubble or something there. And I think it would be probably a good a time as any to actually start drawing a speech bubble. And I'm going to go create myself a sprite. And let's resize this to like 96 by 96 or something like that, so that we can nicely slice it up for 9-slice purposes later. If I turn on the grid, let's see. Let me just we're not snapping to the grid, right? We're just like drawing it. We can, and I'm gonna draw a better one later. But for now, I just want to... All right, we're drawing a cloud, and this should tile reasonably well, because I think I got the... let's say activate the 9-slice. The cells are all going to be 32 by 32 in size. I think I was able to line up the like left, right, top, bottom corner segments reasonably well. So let's see... I'm going to want to set the tiling mode on all of them to repeat. All right, not repeat, repeat, repeat. And the middle can stay stretched. That doesn't really matter. So it's only going to repeat nicely, obviously, if the tiling interval is like a multiple of 32. Because you can see, like, as it slides smoothly, there's some bits of the bottom and rightmost tiles cut off, but we can enforce that in code. We can force the size of the 9-slice sprite to always be some multiple of 32. So, oh, I also said I was going to want to anchor that at bottom center, and we're going to lock that so that I don't accidentally mess it up at some point. All right, so now instead of drawing the red circle, we can, let's just automatically assign a width to like 160, and let's say height is going to be like 128. Oh, the anchor, I'm going to have to calculate the anchor manually. I'm not just going to be able to use the sprite anchor for this. Draw, sprite, stretched. The sprite can be SPR speech, bubble, no autocomplete, I guess. SPR speech, bubble, sum image 0. X and Y are going to be... location.x minus width divided by 2. Y is going to be location.y minus height not divided by 2 because we don't want it centered on the vertical, width and height. And now we're going to have a speech bubble. And it's going to be, let's see, it should have that repetition reasonably, like, seamless, all right? And if I get farther away, it's going to stay the same size on the screen because it's being drawn in screen space, perfect. There's an argument to be made for that, like, if I get really close to it, should scale up a little bit, but I'm going to save that argument for later. You can offer your opinions in the comments if you think it would look better that way. The next thing I'm going to need to do is going to be to actually draw the text. I am going to want it centered, I think. Draw set H-align and V-align. FA middle. I'm going to want it to be drawn in black text, at least for now. Later on, I'm going to use probably Scribble for this so that we can have some nicer effects here, but draw text. The text itself can be, actually, wait. Location. All right, never mind. I thought for a minute I was going to have to do like a lot more math to make this the text origin work, but instead it's just almost the same as the speech bubble itself, but instead of being anchored at the bottom, it's going to be anchored in the middle of the speech bubble. And the actual text is going to be bubble.text, I think. And that is going to give us some text. See, going to go and sort of. All right, it's not wrapped, which it should be, but it's also not exactly centered. Hang on, let's say the separation could be -1 automatic, and the width can be like WW minus 32, bit of padding. Why was it not actually centered though? Oh no, I know why, because the center of the speech bubble is not offset by half the width. All right. This should constrain the text to within the speech bubble. Okay. We could also... there's a few things we could also do. So, the actual text, I wanted to scroll out the typewriter text as it's often known. So I'm going to now move on to, well, no, first I'm going to commit a change. After that, I'm going to keep track of a text index variable. And that's going to be the number of characters that scroll out. We could say, like, characters per second. Say we want to scroll at 100 characters per second, and then we could plus equal that by characters per second times the delta time variable. And that's going to make it a little more robust. I think, again, eventually I want to just use Scribble for this, because I'm going to use Scribble for other things, and that has some built-in text typewriter effects that we could use. But for now, string copy the bubble of text starting from index 1 because of game maker reasons, and the number is going to be bubble.text index, and that's gonna have it scroll out. And that's actually a little fast. What if I have that, I'll cut that speed in half. More like 50 characters per second. I think that'll look a little bit better. Anyway, I think we're also going to, after this, we're going to size the text box based on the content of the string. And for that, I'm going to spawn in a second. Yeah, that looks better. I'm going to spawn in a second NPC, and I'm going to give them a longer thing that they'll say. First, though, All right, what are the two functions? It's like string height extended and string width extended, which is going to do basically the height and width of a string, but with wrapping. So if I were to take the unlike typewriter text, and if I were to say the string height, let's define a max speech bubble. Max speech bubble width, and this can be like, say, 320 or so. It's going to be about twice what it is right now. That might even still be a little small. I might want to make the max speech bubble width like, I don't know, a little more than that. We can say that string width extended of the bubble.text, the separation -1, and the width can be this minus 32. And if we also wanted to take that 32 and make that a variable, and it's really like 16 times 2 because it's going to be 32. It's going to be like 32 cut in half. But anyway, is this the function? So we can say the width equals that. The height is going to equal almost the same thing. And as I said, we're going to want to round it to the nearest, or really the greater 32, for which we can say WW equals, how's it going to go off the top of my head? WW integer division 32. No, it's going to be regular division, floating point division, but we're going to seal that, and then we're going to multiply it by 32, and then we'll do the same thing with height. And that should force the text box to be the smallest multiple of 32 on each axis that will like contain the text nicely. Let's go run this again, and I think we should have a text box of the appropriate size. And once we see that that's how it's going to work. Oh, you know what? I'm also going to want on the vertical, we also want that to be the vertical padding, so that like there's going to be at least 32 pixels of space on the text vertically, like top and bottom. And all right, that's better. So in a perfect world, it wouldn't like the alignment wouldn't change. Well, where the string starts, like the position where the string starts wouldn't change, where that was scrolled out like that. But that is something that Scribble does for me, and I don't feel like doing myself. Lastly, I do want to go and insert another NPC, let's say right next to this one, and this is going to also serve to make sure that if there's multiple text boxes active at the same time, say get mind read text equals some other function. If there's multiple pieces of mind read text active at the same time, they won't like step on each other. And for you, we can say, let's say something very very much longer. The most common game maker lament. There's also a manual line break in the middle of that one because I think it's going to be a bit of a wall of text if I don't break it up on my own. Let's see how this looks. All right. So one NPC is going to say something that's a little bit on the short side, and the other NPC is going to say something that's a little bit more lengthy. Don't remember which one is which. All right, you're the one that just says something short, and you're the one that says something a little bit longer. Okay. I'm not sure if that's something wrong with the padding logic, or if that's something that's wrong with like the string height extended, maybe not taking the line breaks into account or something like that. But in any case, it sizes correctly. Not going to worry about the padding right now because, again, Scribble will make that a little bit easier later on. I can commit this. We can... I would like the max... where were we? In the draw GUI event. I would like the max width to be a little longer, though. Not that I'm really planning on most of these NPCs having like a lot of text to say, a lot of things to say, but I kind of would I kind of do feel like, all right, that's a little bit awkward. I wonder how intelligently I can have the text wrap so that if there's just like a little bit on the last line, it will like, how would I say it? Like, it won't just leave a single word dangling on the last line. That would probably be a lot of work in parsing the text, though. But nevertheless, let's commit this. And is there anything else I want to do with mind read text right now? Not really. There are still things I want to do with it, obviously, but it's mostly cosmetic. It's mostly going to involve drawing prettier speech bubbles and that sort of thing. Oh, you know what? I do want to do something, and that's going to be with the NPC. In the event that perhaps, let's say an asset, in the event that perhaps you do want a different NPCs to have different looking speech bubbles, and I don't know if that's something I'm going to want to do, but it's going to be pretty easy to support, so I'm going to do it anyway. We're just going to set the mind read sprite to a variable definition, and instead of hardcode draw sprite stretched SPR speech bubble, we can say bubble dot parent dot mind read sprite, and if we want to, we can also say bubble dot parent dot mind read sprite index while we're at it, and that can be an integral type with a value of 1. And just in case we, for whatever reason, want like some NPCs to have different looking speech bubbles or some characterization, perhaps we can support that. And that's something that could be extended to other text properties later. Again, scribble things. We could have like different NPCs having their own fonts. Is something that I do in Wizarducks. For some characterizations, and maybe anything else that comes to mind to you. We could customize the text boxes in different ways, but that's going to be something that's going to be very much a later us thing. I think that's it. So I can go. Let's create tag 0.45. We can push to origin. I'm gonna go to Codecks, and I think I can mark these as done. Are there checkboxes? I forgot about those. Alright, yeah, these are both done anyway. Context sensitive, so that's just in the get mind read text method. We could have different things happen based on like again what point in the main story the player is or something like that. Displayed on the screen, draw a thought bubble above the NPC's head. Thought bubble should be sizes appropriately so that the text fits. That's a typo. The thought bubble should go away after a certain amount of time. All right. I'm glad to see that I was apparently thinking about this before I just dove right into it, even though it's been a really long time since I set this up. A lead into conversation systems, which we'll get to in due time. Yeah, I will get to that in due time. But let's go check that off. We can go check this off. I still don't want to check this one off, characters use sprite collections, until I can make sure that it works when they're like walking around. And I think that's going to be the next thing that we do. So NPCs can walk around on their own and navigation waypoints. I'm not going to implement, I don't think, a full-on pathfinding solution. Well, that's not 100% true. I'm not going to be implementing like nav meshes or something, because I don't really want to have to like design nav meshes. Unity might actually have a way to automatically generate nav meshes that I could like hook into and export when I save the Unity scene, but we're going to be operating under the assumption that I'm not going to be doing nav meshes anyway. I think that's it for now. My name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games. If you want the code for this, look for the GitHub repository down in the description of this video. Look for the 0.45 release for the stuff that we did today. Am I behind on creating releases again? I am behind on creating releases again. Whatever. I like to post videos on weird stuff you can do in GameMaker, so if anything like this appeals to you, feel free to subscribe. I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute to the channel, links to that can be found in all the usual places. You should all go check out Wizarducks and the Lost Hat, which is one of the games that I like to work on when I'm not doing YouTube stuff. Link to the Steam page can be found down below. I hope you all found that interesting, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Zenjamin, Squarecrow, Spy Games, Manta Ray, Ganymede Ghosts, Game Maker, Edward Holt, and DJ Gibbles for supporting these videos. If you'd like to join their ranks, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.